Russell Westbrook is officially out of tonight's game with Austin Reaves starting in his place. And this is going to be a huge game just in general. Now, whether the Lakers win or lose is yet to be seen, right? They are playing the Denver Nuggets. Should be a tough matchup, tough opponent. But if the Lakers sort of get reinvigorated and kind of seem like, hey, we're here, we're ready to go, they start hitting shots, things like that, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Russell Westbrook going forward, right? Now, Austin Reaves filling in, I think he has a lot of potential to really kind of step up and elevate his game. He plays really well off of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. He's that guy that just, the IQ, just not really trying to do too much. He understands his role. He knows what is asked of him, what they need of him, and just kind of fills that spot in very nicely, right? He's not a guy that's going to jump out to you. He's not a guy that's, going to one day develop into a star, but he's a solid quality role guy that many teams need in pursuits of championships, right? Guy like Alex Caruso, who he's compared to on numerous occasions, right? And if this team is successful tonight, and it's not even so much if they win, it's how do they win? Because they were in games and should have won games with Russell Westbrook. But if it just seems like there's this new life to the Lakers, I think it'll be interesting, right? I mean, obviously one game isn't going to be, a huge indicator, but with the hamstring soreness of Russell Westbrook, do they kind of say, okay, say they win today against the Denver Nuggets, do they kind of look at it and go, all right, well, let's give it another game. Let's do the Minnesota game, see what happens in the Minnesota game. And then if they win that game, okay, well, let's do the other Denver game. Russ, we want you to be 100%. Sit out, right? And then all of a sudden, let's say they go on a 3-game win streak. Well, now what do? Do you just keep Russ out? Do you bring him off the bench? I don't think the Lakers would just entirely not play him. I don't think they're going to send him home or anything like that. One, I don't think the Lakers can really. I think that this team isn't good enough, and Russ at least provides some, scoring and rebounding and defending, and he's just a valuable piece right now, especially with guys like Dennis Schroeder, Thomas Bryant out. Russ can still provide some playability. Now, does that really decrease if the Lakers find success, over the next few games, if they keep Russ out? Do they bring Russell Westbrook off the bench? Is he even willing to play ball if he comes off the bench? I know he doesn't really want to. He has said he'd be open to it, whatever the team needs, that kind of thing. But it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually do it. And he has shown strides in trying to improve. He's just a really bad fit with this team. I still think Russell Westbrook in the right environment, right situation, can still be a very good player, right? I think if he went to the Wizards, team like that, I think he would thrive. I think he'd be really good. I think he'd be right back to the player he was the last time he was with the Wizards, right before the Lakers. A 22-point triple-double guy. I just think he's a guy that kind of is the system in many ways, although other teams might find him a little more appealing now because he has shown that he has a willingness to play defense, and he's willing to play defense, and he's been solid at playing defense so far. So I think that is something that could be beneficial for just him going forward, as far as trying to get a new job elsewhere. But as far as the Lakers go, if they can't use him in the starting lineup, and he really is just this kind of weight holding the Lakers down, then what do you do if you're the Lakers? It's kind of a tough spot. Do you be patient because if we move off of Russ, then now we know that this team is going to play better. They're going to elevate their game. But do you sit him out, and is he going to be okay with that? Because he could still cause problems. He could still cause a headache. He could still have this dark cloud over it. Even if you send him home, it's not like he's necessarily going to be quiet about it, right? And now you have all that media drama, and you have all the conversations of why did you do this, and blah, 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 blah. And it becomes this another sort of monster and animal in and of itself, right? And that's why I think it could be bad to send him home. Granted, if he throws a tantrum coming off the bench, then you'd still have the same thing. But that's my point. They are just in sort of a lose-lose-lose situation. Whether they start him, whether they bring him off the bench, whether they send him home. It's a lose-lose-lose situation. But at least if you're getting some production, because Russ is not the kind of guy, he's just not going to show. He's just not going to ask to be subbed in. Like, if you tell him to go in the game, he's just going to start jacking up half-court shot. Like, he's not that guy. He's not going to shoot himself in the foot because he's upset. Like, if you ask him to come off the bench, even if he doesn't like it, he's still going to do it because he's trying to get a new contract. He's trying to, get back into being the Russell Westbrook that, we know him to be. And so, when it comes to this Russell Westbrook situation, I think your goal, if you're the Lakers, is to just try to weather the storm, right? You have this storm that is Russell Westbrook, and I think that you need to just try to weather it to the best of your ability so you can be patient and find a trade. Now, I think that may be easier said than done, but also Russell Westbrook isn't the only problem for the Lakers. Like, so many people like to act like if we don't have Russell Westbrook, we're a title contender, and we're not, right? We're still bad. Russell Westbrook isn't the reason we're shooting 21% from the field or from three-point range, right? He's not the reason that we're having all these turnovers. I mean, Russ has averaged like 2 turnovers a game this season or something crazy. He's had 2 of the games where he only had 1 turnover in the last 2 games. So he's not the one turning the ball over. He's not the one missing shots or just missing shots. He has bad shot selection at times, and just he's not afraid to shoot, which can be worrisome at times, but it also is a good sign, because that was like a big thing with Ben Simmons, right? Like, you need him to shoot. I know you can't shoot, but you got to shoot the ball. You're wide open because you're disrupting the flow of the offense. You got to shoot the ball. And so Russ is not afraid to do that. Russ is not afraid to shoot the ball, but it's just at times he just gets careless and just starts, like in the Blazers game, taking that shot, which is inexcusable. But even then, they didn't lose the game because of that shot. They didn't lose the game because of just solely him. This team has a lot of problems, right? But we do have an elite defense, right? We're number 2 in defensive efficiency. So we have an elite defense. We just need to put the scoring together. And the reason I think that this is going to be an interesting test as far as Russell Westbrook goes, not being with the team, and if they prolong that, is because if guys start finding confidence again, and they start showing that, like I said, that new energy, that new feeling invigorated, right? Then I think that could be troublesome for Russell Westbrook, because it's like, okay, like, yes, Russell Westbrook isn't the only problem, but now we've addressed a problem, right? So, say there's a list of 4 or 5 problems. Russell Westbrook is one of those problems on the list. Well, you just crossed off one of those 4 problems. Now you need to address the other 3. Right? And it's like, okay, well, now we know what to do with Russ. And then what do you do? Right? Because that also shows Russ that, hey, dude, like, they're actually better without you. Because that's a big thing right now, is that a lot of people feel like, we may not be a contender, but we're better without Russell Westbrook, right? Addition by subtraction type thing. And this is going to be an interesting test. And I think based on what the result is of this game, whether they win or lose, how do they look? Because they've looked good for most of these games. Like, you could make an argument the Lakers could be 3-0 or at least at worst 2-1. And they should be, right? So it's not like they're terrible with Russell Westbrook. It's not like they're a team that, like, Russell Westbrook, like they would be, 3-0 without Russell Westbrook. Like, they're still 3, they still would be in the same position, right? Because, like I said, Russ wasn't the only problem with that series, with that game. Especially the Blazers game, he wasn't the only problem. He was part of the problem, and when it came down to, like, the last few possessions, he really messed it up. So, again, he was part of the problem. He's just on the list of many problems, and if they address that, and we see that, it's going to be really interesting going forward. I'm really curious to see what position the Lakers are going to be in. Are they going to continue to start him and just have that fear of, like, okay, like, we don't want to make Russ upset? Because that's kind of what it seems. Or are they going to look at it as, like, who cares? we need to bring him off the bench because he needs to play the six-man role because this team is thriving right now, and that would be the best role for him. Because I do still think, like if Russ would just embrace the sixth man role, I actually think he would be great for this team. Because the issue is playing with LeBron, right? And having the need to try to close games out with him, right? But if he just embraced, like, okay, I'm not going to close out games unless I'm just on fire, right? I'm going to come in, I'm going to get, 20 to 25 minutes a game by myself for the most part. I will play sometimes with LeBron, sometimes the other day, but a majority of it is just me. And he just embraced that, then I do think he could be really good for this Laker team. And I actually thought Darvin Ham would kind of operate him as the sixth man, and he hasn't. Like, even if you started him, you still could operate him as the sixth man. I'd like to see Russ solo more times than not. And he's played a lot with LeBron James. And it's just like, that's a bad fit, so why? It's kind of the same thing that, I've criticized Frank Vogel, right? And it's like, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook are not a good fit. Why are you playing them a majority of their minutes together? It doesn't make sense. The whole point of getting Russell Westbrook was to allow him to take pressure off LeBron when LeBron wasn't in the game or if he missed the game. So why are you running Russell Westbrook and LeBron James 25 minutes a game together? Like, that, I think, is a problem. And I do think that they could make simple adjustments. I still believe that they need to make a trade. Like, even if Russ is great and thrives in the six-man role, I still think they need to make a trade. But I think that the goal is to just weather the storm. Weather the storm until you can find a trade. Because the last thing the Lakers want to do is have to do a trade out of pure desperation, right? The Lakers are 0-8, and it's like, all right, we gotta make a trade, right? And now you're doing a trade out of desperation. Where if you can figure it out just enough to be competitive and tread water essentially, then you don't need to force a trade. You don't need to hurry a trade, and you can let the right deal materialize. And I think that that's important. And I think this game is going to be a decent indicator. I don't think one game is a big enough indicator either way. Like, I don't think like one game, like even if they just still look terrible, I don't think that, I do think that is a sign of like, hey, Russ isn't the problem. But I think in the same breath, even if they look fantastic, I still don't think that it's like, I don't think it is a huge impact either way. I do think if they are great, it is an interesting thought of like, okay, maybe there's something here with Russ. If they don't look great, then again, it's kind of the same thing where it's just like there's more problems with this team than Russell Westbrook. My only thing is like, what's going to be the excuse if this team still looks terrible without Russ? Because right now, Russ is the scapegoat for the media, for the fans, for everybody. And I'm not saying that he isn't part of the problem, but he isn't the main problem. And they need to try to figure this out. Like I said, at least long enough to weather the storm until they can find something that's viable as far as the trade front goes. So tonight's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting game to see. It's going to be an interesting just show to watch in general. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you think that this game's going to be a good indicator? Do you think, one game isn't going to give us enough either way, good or bad, which I don't think it will. But I do think that there can be signs. I think that there, you could see, like I said, if the Lakers come out and they just look fresh and they just look happy, then I think that that's at least a sign that, okay, there's something here with the Russell Westbrook thing. But if they still look the same, then it's like, okay, again, it's not Russ. It's just this team as a whole. But, do you think that I do think the Lakers need to trade him regardless. I just don't want them to force a trade out of desperation because it's going to be bad and you're going to get fleeced and it's going to be terrible. And if it doesn't work out, you're screwed. You're screwed. That's what it is. So How do you feel about this? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, good, bad, ugly, somewhere in between. Let me know down in the comment section below.